If you could please begin taking your seats, we're going to get started in a few moments. And also please take a moment and silence any electronic devices that you might have, either silence them or place them on vibrate. Thank you so much. Thank you. We're going to begin this morning's program by honoring our ancestors with a libation ceremony and a land acknowledgement by the Piscataway Indian Nation.
I hope you understand why you're here and what you're called to do. In the African tradition, we take a moment to remind ourselves why we're here and for whom we're here. We use water because it's an essential element for the planet and for us. To remind us that we are stewards for the water and the planet. After a moment of honoring someone that is meaningful to us. And when we do that, we end with an affirmation. Choose whichever affirmation works for you. It's amen, it's ashe, it's alhamdulillah, doesn't matter. Affirm them all. And so we start with the creed that goes by many names. Some say God, some say Jesus Christ, some say Allah, some say Jehovah, some say God, some say Holy whatever. The creator acknowledges all the words. The scripture says that God is love. I appreciate you continue that. So in the name of love, say Ashe. They homage to our ancestors from wherever they may come. 9 times out of 10, they had to endure some stuff. They had to utilize tap. They had to utilize discipline or barriers. And because of their survival, from our tradition, God is not slaves, ain't slaves. Because all they had the morning to survive, pushed to the side. We're here. Let's acknowledge our ancestors. I said, it's enough voices, right? So apropos. What we go do? Y'all got names. It took a lot of time. It took our hearts, our minds. 9 times out of 10. Enough. Are we not trying to make this world better than we found it? Are we trying to make sure that love is the principle that we follow? Maybe we're just to our children, say our children. At the time, we're going to think about the heroes and heroes. We're very special. So I honor the name of Frederick Tubman. I honor the name of Frederick Douglass. I honor the name of the Church Tree. I honor the name of John Brown. So at this time, any heroes and heroes that you want to honor, I invite you to say their names out loud. It's one thing to think it, it's another thing to bring it into existence in your words. So call their names at this time. Marcus At this time, let's get a little personal, okay? Think about your family. Think about your friends. Think about those who may not be with us anymore in the physical realm, but they're always with us in the spiritual realm. It's like we honor our heroes and heroes. We honor those who like they mean something. Love them. Present. Love them. Show them that you love them at the time. Say the names. The people that you love, the people that you care about, the people whose guidance you still need. Because you love them. I know you do. I just met y'all, but I know you love them. So say it proudly. Because they did something. They guided you. They protected you. They loved you. And nothing else. They loved you. It's important to say their names. To show your love and care for them. So to those names that we said, that were in our minds and in our hearts, to the heroes and heroes we celebrate this day. For the heroes and heroes that give us the courage, the strength, the ability, to fight, to fight, to fight, to fight. I said,
Mother of courage, mother of time, daughters of dust, sons of great visions, sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, builders of nations, whispers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, wisdom of age. Our grandmother's prayers, we are our grandfather's dreams. The breath of the ancestors, we are the spirit of God, of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, sons of great vision, sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, builders of nations, whispers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, wisdom of age. Our grandfather's prayer, we are our grandfather's dreams. The breath of the ancestors, we are the spirit of God,
Thank you so much.
My name is Peter Brooks, and I come before you to remind everyone that although we have much to celebrate in this incredible and inspirational story, there is still one group that waits for the same similar type of celebration, and that is the American Indian. When we see statues of governors, presidents, politicians, the people that contributed to shaping the state of Maryland, where are the statues that honor the indigenous people, the very first people, original people of the state we call Maryland? And so I asked, and the organizers agreed to allow me to remind you that this was and still is Indian land, that it was never formally ceded to either King Charles I or the government of George Washington. And just to let you know how bad it was, Maryland, founded in 1632 under the principle of religious freedom, and yet American Indians were not allowed to practice their religion until 1978 and the passing of the American Indian Religious Freedom Act by Congress. How could that be? Yet, here we are today, all of us bound by this land, its history, and the hearts that beat in each one of us as human beings. When we do these land acknowledgments, Native people's voices, footprints, blood, sweat, and tears are intermingled with this land from the beginning, and we cannot separate the land from the people, for we are intertwined. And so all the human beings that were born here where I stand, up to Pennsylvania, across to the Eastern Shore, down to Virginia, including the District of Columbia, all the tribes and bands here would have been loyal to the Piscataway Tayac, or chief of the Piscataway Indian Nation, which still exists today. And so I am asking you to please acknowledge the Piscataway Indian Nation and the fact that it is still sovereign, it is still self-governing, historic, vibrant, and relevant, especially to the proceedings that we have here today. For wasn't it the freedom, liberty, and prosperity of the American Indian that everyone from all over the world sought and decided to come here and settle? And with that in mind, I have spoken to the 29th Tayac of the generation of hereditary chiefs, the Piscataway Tayac, Mark Tayac, the son of Billy Tayac, the grandson of Turkey Tayac, and he sends his greetings. He appreciates your acknowledgement. He wishes that he could be with you today, and he wants you to know how proud he is of all those people who remember, respect, and honor this history and acknowledge this land and its heritage. He asks for your support and stands in solidarity as many African Americans were taken in by tribal communities to be able to survive as human beings. And today, 300 years later, the Tayac, for the American Indian people of Maryland, asks for the African Americans to stand up and to support their brothers and sisters in solidarity. The First Nation has spoken.
Fetch
be an abolitionist man. And he gave me a paper which said, I'm a free colored woman from Philadelphia. That helped me to move about when the dark cat at Baltimore Hall. Oh, they were crowded, these lonely. They hustled, bustled. They kept kneeling about. I got my eyes and my ears open. I studied the people. I'm talking with the colored workers on the docks and in the shipyard. And I feel red in my eyes. Then I go fetch the gal. Her name is Tilly. And I bring her to this field. Slave catcher still milling about. Now I ain't got no papers for Tilly. But I've got some plans. And I swung my shoulder to the wheel to carry it out. Now, them Baptist they look at the runaways trying to board the steamboats heading north. They ain't studying how to look covered to what going south. So I figured we going south to get to the north. Now they tell me to only one steamboat will sail south. That was a red big old side wheel. The steamboat King. That child you can walk. And the only sail one day a week. That was Tuesday. That's why I got here too. You can tell him wine on John, the people getting the tea. But when it come out of the cliff said, God, you two stand aside. I'll tell you by and by. Politics, she couldn't listen to friends. I had to pull over to the valley and push up. Then I could listen to friends. Lord, you done been with me in 6 trucks, Lord. Don't desert me in 7. I looked over here and I see the truck. Lord, don't desert me in 7. Set on the shoulder. He said, y'all come on now. Get your tickets. Thank you, God. Me and Tilly board the steamboat King. Headed down Chesapeake Bay, way below Chowtown, to the mouth of Nanticoke River. Then we turn upriver into Baltimore. Now, I showed the captain of this steamboat my paper. And he said, oh, I know the captain of this steamer in Philadelphia. I said, oh, yes, sir. He's a right fine captain, sir. He can do that guy. Now, my Tilly that shit come over too. She tried me, but she didn't have something to give her. That's what he said. Yes, I had to stop it. Now, when it was dark, we see what that. I walks up to the hotel and calls for supper and lodging like a free company. Then the next morning, the slave traders all down the hotel trying to hold us. But I had some papers. And the innkeeper said, let them pass. And you know, we got out there and walked about 8 miles. And we boarded the train. We came that way. That's where one of the regular brothers carried us on the wheelman to Tulsa. And he packed us on to Philadelphia. To the sweeper. And come back and was waiting for her. He ain't seen her in 7 years. I know what it feels like to have love in your heart. Y'all know what it means. What love will guide me here. Then my people go. He said in the heaven, and I ain't so proud. Then my people go down Moses, well, Egypt and hello, Pharaoh. Then my people go, my God.
Before our program continues, I ask that we just pause for a moment and remember the families in Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you. Welcome to the Governor's Proclamation event for International Underground Railroad Month 2023. I am Dr. Edwin T. Johnson, and I'm the current chair of the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture, and it is an honor and a pleasure to be with you all today on such an important occasion. Please take a moment and acknowledge our dignitaries today. Ladies and gentlemen, the Maryland Secretary of Commerce, Mr. Kevin Anderson. And our Baltimore City Council President, President Nick Mosby. Thank you. Now we would like to welcome Ms. Jayla Way, who is a Morgan State University student in the Department of Fine and Performing Arts. She will render both the Star Spangled Banner and the Negro National Anthem, Let Every Voice Be Seen, which will be followed by the invocation by Reverend Angela T. Burton. Won't you please stand?
Facing the rising sun. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day and the blessings of this day. We thank you for the opportunities that have been afforded us by the courage, ingenuity, and sacrifice of our ancestors. We pray that our efforts here today will be a sign of Maryland's commitment to ensure that the memory of former enslaved Marylanders will never be forgotten. And that we collectively commit to ensuring that that freedom that they risked their lives for will forever reign. Dear God of justice, thank you for being with us in this sacred work, and we invite you to guide our hearts and our minds in all that we do and say. This we pray in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Way, and thank you, Reverend Burton. Again, I bring you greetings on behalf of the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture. One of my fellow commissioners is here, Commissioner Pinkston, representing Baltimore City. I asked that she would stand. The Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture are officially sworn preservers, protectors, defenders, illuminators, and disseminators of the African American experience in the great state of Maryland. We are glad to be a part of this important day. I am someone who grew up in the Washington metropolitan area, and scouting was a part of my life. I was actually a Cub Scout as well as a Boy Scout, and I made it to the rank of Eagle. Right? So this is really a fulfilling moment for me because I can remember as both a Cub Scout and a Boy Scout following in the sacred footsteps of both Harriet Tubman as well as Frederick Douglass. So to be a part of an effort that is going to make sure that this lives on for future generations of young people is just so invaluable and so very meaningful to me. And I hope you all can really appreciate what opportunities are made available for the next generation. We're now in a day and time where everything is being questioned. So when you actually have concrete evidence that these people actually walk this earth, then there is nothing left to debate or speculate. So next, please welcome again our Secretary of Commerce, Mr. Kevin Anderson.
Good morning, everyone. It is a tremendous honor and a distinct pleasure to be here today to hear and experience our libation. The wonderful storytelling and the leadership is just absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson, and all the commissioners, John at the Aquarium, and my good friend Al at Visit Baltimore, and Jonathan at the National Park Service. Thank you so much, and everyone, for the collective leadership. We know that things don't happen organically all the time. It takes real intentional leadership in order for things to get established. It's a fantastic honor to be with you today and to represent Governor Westmore as we kick off International Underground Railroad Month for 2023. This is an important chance for us to connect with our history, both as Marylanders and as Americans, and to honor the bravery of those who resisted the evils of slavery and risked their lives to emancipate others. Those who refused to let enslave us, bolstered by corrupt political and economic system, denied fundamental humanity of enslaved African Americans. Those who gave their lives to a dream and promise we are still working to fulfill, even after the Civil Rights Movement, the integration of public schools, and all the other milestones and achievements of the century that followed emancipation. Although we have made great progress, the work goes on. International Underground Railroad Month is also a chance for us to think about our future, to think about how in our lives, today, tomorrow, next week, we can live in the example of people like Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Josiah Henson, and so many others. To think about how we can achieve the just, equitable society that we deserve. There's no single answer. For Governor Moore and our administration, for example, it means things like ending child poverty in the state, interrupting violence, eliminating the racial wealth gap, connecting all Marylanders with good jobs and opportunities, and making Maryland a desirable and affordable place for anyone to live. In your life, in your community, maybe the answer is a little different, but however you define it, the heroes of the past can guide us and inspire us. Maryland is the most powerful Underground Railroad storytelling destination in the world.
That's right.
You get this tape and distribute it, and you see that around the world. We are leading, and we will lead that story and continue to do so. Our state has a special connection to this era of our history, and International Railroad Underground Month is a chance for us to share these stories and the lives of these individuals with the entire world. Again, I want to recognize and thank Maryland's tourism industry, which has been working hard to develop new attractions, products, and tours to enhance this storytelling experience for our visitors. Keep leading, keep leading. We're behind you, our government's behind you. Let's continue to lead. The country and the world will take notice. This is a rich mosaic of individual sites across the state, which can inspire curious minds and forge strong ties between our world today and the past that is not as distant or remote as we sometimes like to think it is. And right now, I'd like to present a proclamation by the governor. And you come up, Dr. Johnson, and John, and everyone come up. Let's see the governor's proclamation. You got to stand here. And I'm going to read the proclamation. It is significant. Whereas, in recognition of Maryland as the most powerful destination for authentic Underground Railroad history, and in commemoration of the year of Harriet Tubman, celebrating the 201st birthday of the Underground Railroad's most famous conductor, who self-emancipated on September 17th, 174 years ago. And whereas enslaved Africans, their descendants in bondage, and other unfree laborers who resisted their status to gain freedom through acts of self-emancipation, all known as freedom seekers, and those who assisted along the way, united together to become what is known as the Underground Railroad. And whereas the quest for freedom began in 1619 at Fort Monroe, Virginia, when more than 20 enslaved Africans arrived and were traded as property. And whereas political and moral forces eventually led to the first steps in abolishing slavery by the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, first issued 5 days following the Battle of Antietam on September 17th, 161 years ago today. And whereas states and entities across the country have embraced and designated the month of September as International Underground Railroad Month, recognizing the courage and determination of enslaved prior to and beyond emancipation, as well as the expansive but clandestine network of assistance engaged in a dangerous yet determined quest for freedom. And whereas, in appreciation of freedom, as a commitment to recognize the power of our diverse stories, while never losing sight of our common bonds as Americans, and as we move toward the 250th anniversary of this country, we must unite in our drive to achieve a more perfect union. We must work to grow, and we must accept our responsibility to confront and eliminate barriers which threaten the administration of justice and America's true greatness. Now, therefore, he, Westmore, Governor of the State of Maryland, do hereby proclaim September 2023 as International Underground Railroad Month in Maryland, and do hereby encourage all to honor September 1st through 30th, 2023, and beyond as a period of reflection, cultural and public education, earnest assessment and planning to invite, imagine, involve, and inspire all to cherish and respect equality and freedom to all. It has been my absolute pleasure to be before you today, and I thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Secretary Anderson, for bringing us together to honor International Underground Railroad Month and for this great honor of this proclamation by our fabulous governor. We're inspired by both the state's support of this important commemoration and also of Maryland's many important Network to Freedom sites. Thanks also to Council President Mosby and Deputy Mayor Williams for being here with us today and representing our great city. Thank you both. To Dr. Johnson, Reverend Burton, and the talented performers who've amazed us with their skillful interpretations of the events that we're here to commemorate today. We're grateful to each one of you for making this historic morning one that we'll remember. It's also been our great pleasure to partner with the Maryland Department of Commerce, Office of Tourism and Film on this wonderful, wonderful project. This is the 5th anniversary of the International Underground Railroad Month, and it's incredibly fitting that we stand together here on Pier 4 of Baltimore's Inner Harbor to make this proclamation. And on behalf of our board of directors, represented by Chuck Tilden on our board and Roy Prather, the National Aquarium could not be any prouder than we are today for being able to help designate Baltimore's first marker of the National Park Service's National Underground Railroad Network to freedom. For this is hallowed ground. In this place, over a century before the Aquarium was conceived, renowned nurse, spy, and abolitionist Harriet Tubman helped a young woman named Tilly escape to freedom, shepherding her toward the promise of a better future via a steamboat ride to the south on the Chesapeake Bay, but on to Delaware. And contemplating her harrowing voyage, I can't imagine the fear that young Tilly must have felt, nor the tenacity and ingenuity of Harriet Tubman and her compatriots. And I'm awestruck by their courage, their ability to endure against terrible odds. At its core, the Underground Railroad was an engaged community of exceptionally brave people who knew the rightness of their actions. They took risks we can only imagine today against the odds the likes of which we've never seen. And that's the inspiration that Tilly's story, I believe, offers us, that what is right is always right. And those who stand up for it boldly and bravely can secure the equity and the justice and the opportunity that every person deserves. Today, in this place, I pledge that the National Aquarium will honor what Tilly and Harriet Tubman stood for. We will never back down from advancing the principles of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice in everything we do and say. We will never walk back our commitment to be an institution that's inclusive, accessible, and welcoming to people from all backgrounds and lived experiences. We will never forget our role in this community and our duty to serve its residents and those who visit. And we will never stop working to find ways to better serve our city. Starting with a new public amenity that will be opening in 2024, a beautiful floating park in the waters between Piers 3 and 4, comprising 10,000 square feet of floating wetlands. And in this place, we'll create a new way for Baltimore families to enjoy their waterfront, free of charge, experiencing a taste of the coastal marshes that were common along the shores of the Patapsco River in Harriet Tubman's day. Right here on this waterway where Tilly's journey to freedom began. So we're honored to occupy the same ground where such a notable moment of bravery and audacious hope took place. In fact, I think it's our mission to be a place of hope, a source of hope. Through hands-on conservation work, educational programs, and community engagement, we strive to inspire hope for a better future for our city, for our state, and even our planet. And working alongside our partners at Visit Baltimore, the B&O Railroad Museum, the Reginald F. Lewis Museum of African American History in Maryland, we pledge to keep Tilly's story and keep telling her story to this and future generations of guests. In this place, two incredibly brave and indomitable women created a legacy that lives on to this day. And I hope and pray that their courage will inspire millions in the years ahead to believe that right will always prevail. That's a legacy that will benefit us all. Thank you. It's now my distinct pleasure to introduce my colleague, my good friend, Al Hutchison, President and CEO of Visit Baltimore. Al.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Racanelli, for a kind introduction. And let me start off at the top with one thing. Mr. Secretary, Mr. President of the City Council, Mosby, Deputy Mayor Jessica Williams for being in the room. And it's an honor for me to just be in front of you all just to share a couple of quick words about the significance of the International Underground Railroad Day, month being mentioned and being celebrated. And I think what's really important is, as a destination marketer, it's important for us to really celebrate that. And I have some colleagues in the room from around the state. Because one thing about what we do in our business, although I sell Baltimore, it's all about selling Maryland. And we partner together. So my colleagues from around the state that are here from the DMO space, you mind standing up and being recognized for me? Thank you so much for being here, for bringing this great effort. And as I listened to Ms. Tubman come up earlier, probably the best destination marketer of all time is Ms. Harriet Tubman. And she started destination marketing before any of us thought about destination. And she did it so well, and she did it from a place of not celebrating hotel room nights or spending money in restaurants, Racanelli, or coming to a lovely attraction like Aquirium. But she did it about freedom, getting people to move around the country to freedom. And as a destination marketer, that's a good place to start. And I just want to say, as Ms. Tubman really started this game, that here in Baltimore City, it's very important for us to celebrate the legacy of the African American contribution to this country. We've done great work here, and the good thing about Baltimore, we have luminaries who either were born here or spent some time here or contributed to this legacy. And we think about people like Thurgood Marshall. We think about Frederick Douglass. Obviously, you think about Harriet Tubman spending some time. But you think about Murray Mitchell, the great work that he did for this state. Billie Holiday spent some time in this great state. African American legacy is here. And you really can think about Baltimore. We may be one of the starters of African American legacy in this country. It was extremely important to Baltimore. It's extremely important to the state of Maryland to make sure the contributions of African Americans was important. And I think in this time period we're living in, we need to uplift that. We need to celebrate it. I'm a firm believer, some people don't agree with this, that you need to look back to keep from repeating what happened in the past. Some people don't believe that if you look around the country. But we should always remember what happened in the past so we can become better people moving forward. And I'm just so excited to be able to partner with the great attractions here in Baltimore who really get it, who really celebrate African American legacy. I see Terry Freeman here from the Reginald Lewis Museum. They do great work. The largest African American museum in the state of Maryland. And Terry, you're a great team. You do great work to tell that continued story. You know, Dr. Martin's not with us, but the Great Blacks and Whites Museum also is a great part of that storytelling. Dr. Martin and her team continue to elevate and amplify the great contributions of African Americans throughout this country. And I know Chris Hoellen is here for being on Railroad Museum. And if you have not seen the Freedom Seekers exhibit, you need to go see that. It's special, it's authentic, and it continues to tell the overall story. And look, let me just close with this because I think it's important as a destination marketer, all of us who live in this room to tell the great stories of Baltimore and the great stories of Maryland. We're living in some really critical times right now. Very critical times. And every voice in this room is going to be extremely important to not forget about Harriet Tubman, to not forget about the Underground Railroad experience. We need to continue to uplift those stories, to tell them to our young folks, so they can help us to become better people. And let's take this day and this month, not for just a one-time celebration, but every day when you go out doing your work, let's uplift the kindness, the love that we have for one another, of all people. And so, Mr. Secretary, I'm so pleased and happy for you and the governor for taking time to really for us to take a moment to really pay attention to the impact the Underground Railroad had, not only on Baltimore, not only on Maryland, but on this great country. And we should never forget it. And we have so much work to do to continue to embrace it and to become better humans. So with that, I say thank you. And one of the individuals who really partners with us to help us to do a better job in Baltimore, great cheerleader for our work, is no other than the President of the City Council, Mr. Nick Mosley. So Mr. President, I'd love for you to come up and address this group. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Come on, we can do a little better than that. Good morning, everyone. There we go. Well, first and foremost, to our chief destination marketer, Mr. Al Hutchinson. He does an amazing job, and he's the chief, but the reality is each and every one of us work for him. Whether you're in city government, state government, whether you're in the public sector, nonprofit sector, or private sector, we are all marketers of this beautiful place we call Maryland. And I say that because it doesn't escape me when we talk about all of the rich assets of the state of Maryland. It doesn't escape me when I think about all the notable figures here in the state of Maryland. And more importantly, while we're standing here today, it doesn't escape me as it relates to history, the richness of our history here in Maryland. And with something called history, you can never forget. You should never forget. You should hold on to it as sacred as the way you've learned it for generations in the future to learn the same way, to experience and expose them to it the same way. It's not a secret that many folks in our country want to erase history, or they want to revisit it in a way that's not consistent to what actually took place. And that is concerning. And if you are not upset about that, if that does not make you uncomfortable, if it does not make you angry, then probably you shouldn't be standing in this room today. Because each and every one of you, individually in your own capacities, but more importantly as a collective, from many different perspectives and walks of life, we're all coming together to celebrate that history that we must preserve. Because as Al said, if we don't know where we've come from, how do we ensure that we do not return there one day? Imagine being in your home with your family, doing the daily tasks and rituals that you were brought up to do. And all of a sudden, out of the blink of an eye, that was forever taken away from you. That you traveled months and months through waters. The conditions that are unknown to mankind at its time, and you winded up being a tool for the rest of your life. It does not escape me that the first African-American Secretary of Commerce came 400 years after the founding of this great state of Maryland. It doesn't escape me that Kevin Anderson is over the industry that traded humans to this land as tools. It doesn't escape me that when we look at the history of our country, when we go century by century, even to this day of 2023, when we look at things like the racial wealth gap, that DNA is still imprinted on our land. That does not escape me. And the reason it does not escape me is it is our history. And each and every one of you stand on the shoulders of Tilly and Tubman, two critical pieces of history that we can never, ever forget. So as we go across this country and we promote this great state of Maryland, and we talk about our rich assets, and we talk about our notable figures, it's important for us to always know that we must talk about, embrace, and love our history. so we will never, ever return to that again. That is why I want to thank not only our amazing governor, our amazing Secretary of Commerce. I want to thank the National Park Services for all of its hard work. I want to thank the state officials for bringing us here today. The last thing I'll say about what I consider probably the greatest American to ever walk the face of the earth in Harriet Tubman. If you ever get a Zoom call of me, you're going to always see her in the back of me on my mantle. It's Frederick Douglass on one side and Harriet Tubman on the other side. I'm getting off track real quick, but I can recall one time when I first became president of City Council and I had the two figures on my mantle. We're coming out of February now we're going into March. And someone politely and nicely said, Council President, what are you going to put on your mantle for March? And I said, well, I was confused, I said, what do you mean? He said, well, we're moving out of Black History Month. What are you going to put on your mantle for March? Like, are you going to decorate it for March? And I said, they're not up there for Black History. They're up there because it's Maryland history. That's why both of the pictures stand next to the Maryland flag. Sorry, I went off course there. But this is the last thing I'll leave us with. We've all went and tried out for maybe our Little League football team, and maybe we're a little frightened or scared. We all decided to maybe climb a tree, maybe we're a little frightened or scared. We all had a crush on someone when we were in high school. We've all been frightened or scared. We all have gone down a pathway, maybe it's dark at night, and we were frightened or scared. That's what we know to be frightened, right? We've all been frightened, right? Well, for Harriet Tubman and for the courageous folks that decided to take her leadership and follow her to the righteous land of freedom, imagine what their frightening felt like. Can you outrun a horse? Hearing dogs come after you in the pitch black night? That is their reality, and that is part of the history, and that's why we're staying here today, to say thank you. Because without their courage, without their fight and their fortitude, their perseverance, without them never forgetting who they were and willing to sacrifice their life for the human race, for mankind, we might not be staying in the position that we're all standing here today. So again, from Tilly and Tubman's leadership to our amazing and the best Commerce Secretary in all of this great land, I say thank you to each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedules and joining us today, for understanding that the collective effort of us standing in this room and the history of Maryland will forever move on, and this is just one step forward with it. So thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. It's also hard to come at the end here when we have such amazing set of leaders who have spoken so eloquently and so magnificently on the day here today. This is such a special day. I'm grateful here to share it with you, from the state to the city of Baltimore, to you people here who are receiving these stories and these messages, and hopefully we'll carry them forward with you as well. My name is John Mead. I'm the Assistant Regional Director for the National Park Service out of Philadelphia. I oversee the Everett Freedom Program for the National Park Service, and I'm here representing today on behalf of that program, where the entire team has been in retreat for the next couple of days, working on the member sites and grant applications that are coming through for this program. So, work goes on, right? So, think of them as they're working through elevating those continued stories that we try to find. The Underground Railroad Network to Freedom program, established by the National Underground Railroad Network to Freedom Act of 1998, it's a remarkable commemoration of the history of the Underground Railroad. The program's mission focuses on freedom seekers and their stories of hope and resilience. Those who navigated an expensive network that spanned not just the states, but international borders as well. It's both daunting and humbling to consider the struggles they faced, as we've shared here today. The strength they possessed, the bravery, the commitment, the hope that they shared, and today we honor their heritage and the sacrifices they made to fight for the freedom of others. And we proclaim that International Underground Railroad Month. We honor the courage of those who defied oppression and both sought freedom and supported those in doing so. And here in Baltimore, this special place, this brave city, we're able to share in the presence of that very history of those who played a role in the Underground Railroad, and together discover new markers of valor worth sharing with generations to come. Maryland's proclamation of September as International Underground Railroad Month set the stage for an international movement, underscoring the significance of the Underground Railroad. This action holds resonance as Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass both self-liberated in September, and further that Baltimore simultaneously played a role as the place where Frederick Douglass endured enslavement and also as the backdrop to one of Harriet Tubman's most daring rescues. Douglass once noted, Baltimore presented much variety in society. It was sufficiently southern to be a slave city and sufficiently northern to be a free city. Today we honor his legacy and recognize these brave individuals in Baltimore who persevered in adversity and played significant roles in the success of the Underground Railroad by guiding freedom seekers toward liberty. We've heard the story of Tilly, and it's both compelling and heart-wrenching, and the remarkable achievements of those who valiantly escaped from slavery are quite similar as well. She embarked on her freedom on October 21st, 1856, with the assistance of legendary Harriet Tubman, and I couldn't begin to tell the story as well as was told earlier. But Tubman famously declared, "I have a right to liberty or death. If I cannot have one, I have the other." That powerful statement serves as a poignant reminder that the fight for freedom continues to propel us toward a more just and equitable society. Justice and equity. So many have talked about this morning, and talked about how we must look to the history, we must look backward to go forward, and like Harriet, let's go south to go north. We have a lot of work to do. The National Park Service continues to be steadfast in our efforts to try to elevate stories, to try to uncover the research, to try to understand, and to be able to share those stories so others can tell them too. Looking ahead, the Network to Freedom path is clear. The stars are out for us. The Park Service is about a place, it's about many places, it's about stories, and so many stories that we have yet to uncover. We look to our education and storytelling programs with that unwavering resolve. We're going to continue collaborating closely with parks and member sites, with tourism officials, cities, towns, communities, heritage areas, to develop and share new historical information that we offer to visitors, enriching their understanding of this pivotal chapter in our nation's history. And we'll diligently uncover and document new sites as we journey, ensuring their recognition within the Network of Freedom. And that legacy lives on in various program initiatives that we have, including the Handbook, the Junior Ranger Book, and the Questioning Conversations Project. We'll talk more about that some other time if you'd like. The initiative preserves oral traditions and eliminates personal narratives through thoughtful conversations with descendants. But the impact of the Underground Railroad continues to motivate us for a brighter tomorrow. We can all find inspiration in those who dare to envision a better world and persevere toward that goal. And we thank you for your dedication, presence, and shared commitment to a future defined by justice and equality. And I'd ask to take these stories with you, to carry our shared voice with hope and determination, that we see here the resonant echoes of history in this place, on this spot, this land, that they can be shared and they can be moved on. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment and salute and applaud all of our speakers. And I wanted to acknowledge Dr. David Funkule and Dr. Mama Deborah Pierce Funkule were not mentioned of Discover Me, Recover Me. And also, Ms. Harriet Tubman so eloquently came to us by way of Millicent Sparks. She's in the rear, please give her. words, and I hope you will take those words with you, but more importantly, please understand that we have a part to play in this. Don't let this just be one day. Come and visit the National Aquarium. If you have children, make sure that there's some field trips scheduled. Where are my folks from Reginald Lewis? Please stand. We've got a captive audience here. Hours, we see hours. Yes, quickly.
That Harriet Tubman was because she saw liberty, justice, and freedom. And so she was right now, and it's leaving after this weekend.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, support the Reginald Lewis Museum. We get to the day and time where we can no longer rely on public school systems to be the sole person responsible for educating our children. So please take full advantage of all of the resources that exist in Baltimore City as well as the state of Maryland. So housekeeping note, we're getting ready to process outside to actually unveil the marker. This building will close after we leave, so please take your belongings with you and don't get up yet. Help yourself to some refreshments before you leave. But please take your belongings with you and please grab some refreshments. Those who participated on the program, we want you to gather because there will be some photographs taken in the plaza right in front of the bridge. So now we will call back up Reverend Angela Burton to give us our benediction. Reverend Burton.
The benediction is our blessing as we leave a place. And as we leave this place, I say to you, we don't want to leave behind what we've heard today and make this just a moment in time. Making sure that we continue to go forward. And as we go forward in the work, knowing that we will have opposition. It already exists. So I say to you, may the road rise up to meet you. May the winds always be at your back. May the sun shine warmly upon your face. And may the rain fall softly upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. May God hold you in the palm of his loving hand. Amen.
There were refugees here. I don't know how that place got that name, but it is true.
That's really like
Yes, yes, yes.
part of your